Okay, your textbook page number 18, and right on top of the page you will find a case study. I want all of you to read that case study. I will also read it aloud over here. Pokhran, the place where India conducted its nuclear tests, lies in Rajasthan. I want you to open your textbooks to page number 18, 180, your democratic politics textbooks, page number 18, and there is a case study on top. We will all read it and then we will answer those questions in those case studies. Is that clear, Prasanna? Right. Right. So Pokhran, the place where India conducted its nuclear tests, lies in Rajasthan. Suppose the government of Rajasthan was opposed to the central government's nuclear policy. Could it prevent the government of India from conducting the nuclear tests? So, what is your opinion in this particular case? I don't know whether all of you are familiar with this incident. What is over here? The nuclear test which happened in Pokhara. In fact, actually, there was a movie also. Uh, I think the name was Parmanu, if I'm not mistaken. John Abraham, Parmanu, yeah. So, this is the same thing. What was that? The nuclear test which was done in Pokhara. So, the question over here is if the government of Maharashtra. Yes, correct. So the question here is if the government of Rajasthan would have opposed the central government from conducting this nuclear test, would it be possible? Could the government oppose? Anyone can answer. Yeah, in your opinion, what do you think? Do you think the government of Rajasthan could have opposed this nuclear test? Okay, three no's, four no's. Okay, most of them are saying no. Can you tell me why no? Why the government cannot oppose this nuclear test? So they can or they cannot because you can oppose to saying it is harmful to surrounding area. No, no. So it's a desert area. Okay, there's nothing growing for miles together over there. So that is not the actual answer. No, because it comes under union list. Absolutely right, Sakshi. That is correct. Since it's a past part of defense testing, this nuclear test which they have done, it's a part of the defense. And defense is purely a union list item. And that is the reason when this area is taken by the central government for doing the nuclear test, the state government cannot oppose it. That is correct. So the next case over here is suppose the government of Sikkim plans to introduce new textbooks in its school, but the union government does not like the style and content of the new textbooks. In that case, does the state government need to take permission from the union government before the textbooks can be launched? Prasanna says no. What about the others? Both need to agree, and yes, they will have to take permission. That is absolutely right, correct, because education is actually on the concurrent list. So as Shafa says, both of them will have to agree. Both of them will have to agree with what is being printed on the textbook. If one party disagrees, then the print will not happen. No, state schools also they need to have the consent before they print anything over there. See, if a state school is going to print some anti-national things in the textbook, do you think the central government agree? That is the reason why the education is actually on the concurrent list because both of them have to agree on that. Okay. Yeah. So the next one is, suppose the Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, Chhattisgarh and Orissa have different policies on how their state police should respond to the Naxalites. Can the Prime Minister of India intervene and pass an order that all the chief ministers will have to obey? I will repeat this once again. Suppose the chief ministers of Andhra Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, and Orissa have different policies on how their state police should respond to the Naxalites. Can the Prime Minister of India intervene and pass an order that all the chief ministers have to obey? Okay, Shafa says no, sir. They cannot. He cannot intervene in their personal matter. Okay, Sharwari also says no. Well, the Prime Minister is like the supreme authority, right? The head of the government. Everybody will have to listen to the Prime Minister, right? Why can't the Prime Minister intervene in this? Absolutely right. Again, Shafa, police comes under the state government or the state list. So each and every state government can govern and can make rules for their own police, how they are going to tackle issues, how they are going to tackle the problems. So this is the example of how things get handled when they come under the national union list, under the state list, and under the concurrent list. So once you have done these case studies, the picture is more clear. Actually, how the work happens, right? So only when I tell you that there are three lists and union list and state list and concurrent list, then it might not be very clear. But once you go through case studies, read from the newspapers what things are happening, then you can understand. So what Prathamesh says, sir, I think Supreme Court will interfere. No, Sagar, Supreme Court also will not interfere because this is very clear. This is laid down by the Constitution itself. So the Supreme Court will not interfere as long as there is nothing unconstitutional happening. Okay. Prathamesh says, similarly, union government can take decision regarding defense or spacecraft launching, etc. Absolutely right, Prathamesh. That is correct. Yeah. Okay. So these case studies are clear to you. The picture of union list, state list, and concurrent list is, I think, more clearer now. How work happens. Yeah. Good. So that's the reason I tell read your textbooks. Our textbooks are so beautifully designed. No, each and every example what is given over there gives a very nice picture of everything. Okay, now I want all of you to go to page number 26. Go to page number 26, and over there in the yellow box there is an experiment in Brazil. So please read that, an experiment in Brazil. I will also read out over here, so it will work for the benefit of the recording also. Right? Okay. Page number 26, an experiment in Brazil. A city called Porto Alegre in Brazil has carried out an extraordinary experiment in combining decentralization with participative democracy. The city has set up a parallel organization operating alongside the municipal council, the enabling local inhabitants to take real decisions for their city. The nearly 13 lakh people in this city get to participate in making the budget of their own city. The city is divided into many sectors or what we call as wards. Each sector has a meeting like that of the Gram Sabha, in which anyone living in that area can participate. There are sometimes meetings to discuss issues that affect the entire city. Any citizen of the city can participate in those meetings. The budget of the city is discussed in these meetings. The proposals are put to the municipality that takes a final decision about it. About 20,000 people participate in this decision making exercise every year. This method has ensured that the money cannot be spent only for the benefit of the colonies where rich people live. Buses now run to the poor colonies, and builders cannot evict slum dwellers without resettling them. In our own country, a similar experiment has taken place in some areas in Kerala. Ordinary people have participated in making a plan for the development of their locality. So everybody has read this and understood what is actually there in the passage. First of all, you can tell me if you have understood the passage or are there any doubts in the passage. Then we will start discussing about this passage. It is understood, okay? Any words not understood in this passage? Okay, yeah. So this experiment basically what has happened in Brazil in this city of Porto Alegre. This is called as participative democracy. Okay, this you can say is like the next level of democracy, but to what extent it may be fruitful or not fruitful, that of course remains to be seen. But this is a type of participative democracy. When we say participative democracy is what difference does it have compared to the kind of democracy that we have? What kind of democracy do we have in India? That you need to recognize first. What do you call the democracy that we have in India? If this example is of participative democracy, what is the name given to the democracy that we have in India? Can anyone tell me the answer? Representative. Correct. Absolutely right, Kunal. It is a representative democracy that we have in India because we choose our representatives through elections, and this representative goes and sits either in the state government or in the central government. In the state government, he is called as a MLA or a member of legislative assembly. In the central government, he is called as an MP, member of parliament. Okay, so this is a representative form of government. Over here in Brazil, what has happened is they are having a participative democracy. So the difference over here is in India's democracy, the citizen will choose his representative and forget about it. Once I have chosen my representative, then the feeling of the citizen is, अरे मैंने तो मेरा काम कर दिया है. I have done my work of doing the voting as a very honest and very good citizen. I have done the I have shown taken the responsibility. I have done the voting. I have done my duty. And now once he is elected, it is up to him. Whatever he wants, he can do. But that is what is called as representative. Now that representative, once he goes to the Lok Sabha, whether he really does the work for the people or does he only do the work for filling his pockets in the form of corruption, that is the entire story of India. Many times we see that the representative that we have chosen, ultimately he just becomes richer and richer and richer for himself, whereas the situation of his constituency does not change because hardly any work is being done. But upside to this participative kind of democracy, what we are reading over here is the work is not over with only choosing the representative. As a citizen, it is my responsibility also to participate. So more responsibility is given on to the citizen over here. And yeah, correct, Sagar. More responsibility is given to the citizen over here, and once more citizens get together and take over that responsibility and they participate in the government, how it functions, so they can give their own ideas, they can give their own thoughts on how the money is to be used, where it is to be allocated, who are those people who don't deserve and who are those people who deserve. uh, it it leads to more delays than representative democracy. That could be possible, yes, it could lead to more delays. But see, as we always say, one thing you need to remember in democratic politics is democracy is still very, very young. Okay, democracy is still very young. It is a new idea. It is just maybe around 200 years old. That's all. It is not older than 200 years. And our civilization is extremely old civilization. So this democracy, this idea of democracy, the concept of democracy is still very young. There are many things which can be done to improve democracy. And this representative, this participative democracy is one of those things. One of those things which can be done to improve the quality of democracy. So, but very complex. Yeah, democracy is complex. Definitely, it's a very complex concept. That's what makes it so beautiful. The more complex a concept is, the more place for it to grow. See, democracy is so complex, means there is more place for it to grow, for it to develop. More experiments can be done in that. We can always see what works, what does not work, and finally use the thing that does work. So over here, this participative democracy is actually a very, very beautiful kind of a concept, very productive kind of an idea where actually the citizens become productive. It is not like my responsibility is over, that once I have selected my member of parliament, let him do whatever work he wants. But over here, I actually step into the municipality and work along with the municipality and see that things get done. So if a street light is not working, if a street light is not working in this participative democracy, the person knows who is to be blamed. Now, in our case, in Belgaum, if the street lights don't work, we are absolutely clueless on whom to contact. If the street lights don't work, if the street of in your particular colony is totally dark, there is no power over there, you might call the HESCOM. The HESCOM will say, or the KEB, you'll call the KEB or the HESCOM and they will say, sir, it is not our work. We will just fix the bulb and we will maintain it. But this other thing has to be done by the municipality, the PWD department, Public Works Department. Then you don't know whom to contact in this PWD department in the corporation, because this is such a huge place. The problem keeps on getting passed on from one table to the other table. But in the participative democracy, when I'm actually participating, I will actually know that who is responsible for keeping the street lights running. So this kind of experiment in democracy, participative democracy in India also, it is there in Kerala. They Since Kerala is more of a socialist kind of a state, this experiment also has been happening over here and is quite fruitful in these particular areas. So this was a experiment in participative democracy. Any doubts about this? Anybody?
No, sir.
Okay, good. What about the others? Cool. So one more thing I just wanted to ask: everybody has got the this for tomorrow's online test. What lessons are there?
Yes, sir, we know.
You got it right. Okay. Yeah, so Shafa says in participative democracy, if conflicts arise between people, who will take the decision? See, again, the decision making authority would be the corporation or the head of the panchayat or whatever. That ultimately the decision making power would be with him. But over here, it is not the participation for taking the decision, it is the participation for seeing what things and where it has to be allocated. So the question of conflict, yes, conflicts could arise. Definitely, conflicts will arise, and ultimately the decision would be in the hands of the what is that head of that particular department. Okay, India has hybrid democracy. On low level, it is participative panchayat, and higher level, it is representative. Yes, correct, Nodal. That kind of a mixture it is. In India, it is that kind of a mixture. In Brazil, it is municipality. Yeah. Okay, now let's move on to the next case study over here. Okay, I would like to discuss a few of those caricatures. Go to page number 21. Page number 21. On
Yes,
page
sir.
number 21, you have two, caricatures or two cartoons, you can say.
Yes, sir.
Can anyone tell me the interpretation or the meaning of the first one, the one on top? What is it? By the way, the person standing next to the cook is Indira Gandhi, our ex prime minister, our late prime minister, you can say. It is Indira Gandhi, and there are numerous people standing outside with bowls. It's about
Chief Minister.
powers. Prasanna says it is, I think, it's about powers given to different states. It is that's just a part of it, but there's a bigger picture over here. There's a bigger picture. Anyone can give an interpretation for this. What is it about? Chief Minister is asked is asking for more power. The power is more in central government. That is also right. Those are right. But there is one. I'm looking for one particular word over here. Central government is dominant. Yes, almost. Central government is dominant. Yes. Anything else? I'm looking. Can you see the state in which those chief ministers are? Do they look, healthy and do they look okay? What do they look like? Those chief ministers. They are holding that bowl. What do they actually look like? Hungry. Very close. Begging. Beggars. Absolutely right, Mrunal. Correct. Sharvari, right. Yes, they are standing over there with a begging bowl. That is true. Correct. That is exactly the word that I was looking for. Right, Purva. Correct. So that is the word I was looking for. They are actually standing outside the central government with a begging bowl. Means, and you know how food is normally served to beggars, just as much as enough. They are not going to get surplus amount of powers food. They are not going to get excess amount of food. Jitna chahiye utna hi, that's all. So this is basically a caricature drawn made during the Indira Gandhi era, where there was federalism, yes, but Indira Gandhi as a prime minister used to hold on to power very tightly. She was known for that. She used to be extremely dominant, and she used to hold on to power very very tightly and would not let go of it. Yeah, and she was the one who was responsible for the state of emergency in India from 76 to 78, a very bad period in India's democracy. So yeah, so over here, the powers which were actually supposed to be given to the states are given just enough, nothing more, nothing less. Only that much would be given, and the states would actually have to go with the begging bowl for it, like please give it to us, we really need it. So that was the situation of the states during this particular time. Now coming down, the one below over there, we have Atal Bihari Vajpayee, and very beautiful caricature over here. Can anyone tell me what do they interpret from the second one, the one below that? The king is controlled by others, not exactly controlled. All are satisfied. All are satisfied, but what about the leader? Now, what kind of a throne is that leader sitting on? That you need to see. Look at the throne of the leader. What is it made of? It's a coalition of different parties. That is true. all the leaders make a strong chair. Not exactly. What is that? Kabhi, I cannot understand what Mronal has written. Coalition party leaders, kabhi bhi bhadak. Mronal, can you please put it in English? Could be better. Sharwari says coalition party leaders. Yes, that is right. They can erupt anytime. More than erupt, there is another word for this. I feel just can you closely see the throne? What exactly is that throne made of? If you are able to see carefully, you will see that bombs. Absolutely right, Purva. Correct. Not crackers, Murnal. They are bombs. They are big bombs. Like dynamite. So those they are supporting the coalition party leaders. They are supporting the prime minister, and he is sitting on their support. But it is like a ticking time bomb, because right next to them, that you can see that huge fire. That fire is the coalition government, the torch which is kept on the side. Yes, absolutely right, Purva. It can explode at any time. So that next to them is that the government, the coalition government, which is in the form of a torch, a nice flame. So if that flame topples over, if anything, even a small spark falls out from that flame, it can light up the entire government, and it's going to explode at any time. So that is the situation of the coalition government. Yes, Sagar, it is very difficult to handle a coalition government, even though on paper a coalition government, no, it looks like it is very good. Yes, Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee is sweating over there, because that is the situation, that is the kind of position they are put in many times during the coalition government, because it is very difficult to keep everybody happy over here. Yes, these caricatures I'm saying are one of the most beautiful caricatures over there, and they convey a lot of meaning. These political caricatures, there are plenty of them over there. You can search for these, and these they carry a lot of meaning. It might look funny just on the face of it, but when you look deeper into them, you can actually see the position. It gives a very right and true picture of how the government actually is. It is a way of conveying to the people what situation we are in. Yeah, absolutely right, Shafa. They are very, very deep cartoons. It's good. Even the ones drawn by R.K. Lakshman and all, which used to come in the Times of India, very wonderful political caricatures. They convey a lot of meaning about the common man. So these caricatures, they give us the absolutely, especially the second one, it gives us the absolutely right picture of a coalition government, of how unstable this particular government could be. Even a small spark can destabilize the entire government. That is the situation, right? So that was, I feel it was a good discussion we had today. So any doubts anybody has about this particular lesson? R.K. Lakshman, yes, from Karnataka, absolutely beautiful, wonderful caricaturist. And used to have one of the best cartoons, about basically the situation of the common man. And if you see his old caricatures, which he has done in the years of 1970s, 80s, if you see those, they are absolutely valid even till today. The situation of the common man, what was there in the 1980s and what is there in today's society, almost 40 years from that, it has absolutely not changed. So if you can anytime see the caricatures of Mr. R.K. Lakshman, they are absolutely beautiful, totally beautiful caricatures. Very nice. So anybody has any doubts about what we have learned till now?
No, sir.
Okay, good. So then we can officially call this lesson of federalism as closed. And tomorrow, please study for your online test. You can answer it online anytime between 12 and 2 o'clock. You will get your scores immediately. You don't need to do any separate kind of submission. Okay, yeah. So we will close today's class over here only if there are no more doubts.